Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. I'm delighted to be joined by Niall. And Niall, I am delighted to be joined by you as we're reacting to possibly one of the biggest fights of 2023. Obviously, we've had Crawford Spence is going to happen in a few weeks. Obviously, we've had some other huge fights. Taylor Lopez, to name but a few. Cameron Taylor. And now it looks like we're getting Sonny Edwards against Jesse Bam Rodriguez as well. Matchroom Boxing put out a tweet earlier just confirming that the fight is signed, sealed. Now all that needs to be done is for it to be delivered. No date or venue as of yet. But yeah, both parties have agreed to the fight, supposedly. Now, what's your immediate reaction to that?
Yeah, as you say, it's incredible. It's great news. 2023 is turning into a special year for boxing, one of the best years we've had in a long time. So to get this fight signed, and it seemed to come out of nowhere on a Thursday afternoon. It's great, and it's great to see Sonny Edwards being delivered a big fight so soon after signing with Matchroom Boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, Sonny Edwards only recently signed with Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. Had that fight a couple of weeks back against Andres Campos. Obviously, before that, he's fought the likes of Alvarado, Wasim, Jason Mama. Won the title against Mutilani. Back, when was that? That's back in March, April 2021 now, I think it is.
Yeah, it's
So,
about 2 years ago.
yeah, so he's been world champion for nearly 2 years now, and he's finally getting that unification against, obviously, as we mentioned, the man known as Bam, Jesse Rodriguez, 18 or no, probably the biggest puncher down at flyweight. He himself is the WBO flyweight champion, having won that vacant belt last time out against Christian Gonzalez Hernandez. Looking at this fight, Niall, taking off our UK and Ireland boxing hats. What do you think happens here? Do you see this? Do you see this being really competitive and a really close fight? Do you think we could end up getting two or three fights between these two, or are you swaying towards one way or the other?
I think stylistically, it's such a fascinating fight. It's so good. You have the natural ability of Sonny Edwards, and as you mentioned, the power of Bam. But Bam also has the technical ability to kind of handle himself there too. So stylistically, I think it's going to gel so well. It's hard to pick a winner. In terms of picking a winner, I'll say Sonny Edwards. It might be a bit biased. I've been a Sonny Edwards fan for a while, so I'm delighted he's finally getting the big fight that his talent warrants. So I'll go with Sonny, but a close decision, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean it's a fascinating fight, and there's so many kind of different caveats to this fight. We've obviously got, as you mentioned, Sonny Edwards, arguably the most talented boxer down in those weights. His skill set's phenomenal. We saw against Mutilani, a lot of people thought, yeah, I'll outbox him for 6 rounds, but he'll get caught and get stopped. Didn't happen. Won with relative ease in the end against a champion who'd been reigning for years and nobody really wanted to fight. I think I'm not saying this is a boxer versus puncher fight because that's a bit disrespectful to Bam. I think he's not just a puncher. As we saw against the likes of Rungvisai before he stopped him, like he boxed superbly, put on a bit of a clinic that night. Obviously, he's a two-weight world champion. But yeah, if you had have asked me before the last fight for Edwards against Campos, I would have been more confident of him winning. I still am edging towards Sonny Edwards, I think. Obviously on points, I don't think Edwards carries that knockout punch, but I'm probably less confident now than I was, before Edwards' last fight. Another thing I wanted to ask you, now obviously I haven't been told the official venue or the date. We're imagining what it's June now. This fight will maybe be around what, September, October time, something like that. Before the end of the year, obviously. Anyway, do you think that depending on where it is, it will favor one man or over the other? If it is in the States, does Jesse Rodriguez have even more of a chance of winning? Do you think Sonny Edwards, if it's in London or anywhere in the UK, he has a better chance of winning, or do you just not really think that matters?
I definitely do think it matters in this day and age. I do think it matters if it was in the States, I would, you always say it would slightly favor one man over the other. But I suppose if I had to say, like, I'd say Rodriguez coming to London would be at more of a disadvantage, and Edwards going to the States. Judging wise, I hope that's not the case. I hope there's not. any issues with the judging wherever it is to ruin such a big fight, you know. So hopefully it doesn't play too much of a part, but I think it has to really.
Yeah, I'm 100%. Obviously, I think down at Um, down at 112 pounds. It feels sounds strange saying that 112 pounds, unbelievable. But down at 112 pounds, obviously, as I mentioned, this is a unification. Rodriguez has the WBO belt. Sonny Edwards has the IBF belt. The other two champions, I believe, are Julio Cesar Martinez, who holds the WBC, and isn't it Delakian holds the WBA, the
Yeah,
Ukrainian
that's
fighter.
right. Yeah.
Um, do you think that these two fighting in the unification. Do you think that's to see who's number one in the division, or do you think one of the other two champions is potentially number one? Because I know on BoxRec that Rodriguez is ranked as number one and Edwards is ranked as number two.
Yeah, I do think it is to see who's number one. Like for a long time, I know a lot of people want to see the Martinez Edwards fight. They wanted to see that with the, you know, what was at stake there. But I think talent, ability wise, they're number one and number two in the division without a doubt. And this will see who's the ruler of the division for me anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Do you think that the fact Jesse Rodriguez has been up at super flyweight and won world titles there, do you think he'll be more confident that knowing that he's been up there, albeit it's only 3 pounds higher, up at super fly, but do you think that having him being up at 115 pounds, do you believe he'll feel like he can stop Sonny Edwards, especially the way Sonny Edwards boxes? Do you think that Jesse Rodriguez will be going into this fight? Obviously, looking to win by any means necessary, but do you think in his head he'll fancy his chances of a stoppage here?
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, he was up. He's been up at super flyweight before with great success, and he's a puncher anyway. And you know he's going to be the bigger man. That's going to be his best bet to stop Sonny Edwards, and I think he does have the power as well as the speed and the technical ability to land it. Like he's not just pure power. Say someone like a Martinez who'll be a lot more one dimensional than Bam. So I think it's a more intrigue. It's the most intriguing fight that can be made for me.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I completely concur. I've said before, yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Sonny Edwards as well. Close fight, but Jesse Rodriguez is a special talent as well. I think that you're looking at, this as I mentioned at the beginning, it wouldn't surprise me if this was such a close fight, and that they ended up having a rematch, and then it wouldn't surprise me if they had the rematch and it was so close again that they had a third fight, and I hope they do. I'd love to see it because, yeah, as you mentioned, two of the biggest names down at flyweight and even super flyweight if Sonny Edwards is to go up and try his luck at another weight division. Just finally, Niall, I know you've already touched on it that you think Sonny Edwards is going to win, and you think that you're a Sonny Edwards kind of self-proclaimed Sonny Edwards super fan, but all biased aside, genuine just thinking cap on from what you've seen of them so far and how talented both fighters are. What is your final prediction for Edwards against Baum?
My final prediction, I'll say split decision win Sonny Edwards. And I think Edwards, just on that, as we were speaking about earlier, like where this fight could be, if Edwards can go to America and put on a boxing clinic that and or defeat Bam, it could open up a whole new kind of fan base from over in the States with his style and his charisma and his I think this could be really a huge night for Sonny Edwards.
Yeah, 100%. Part of me thinks that the fight is more likely to be in the States. I mean, I'd love it to be in the UK, but I'm not sure if it's maybe be an O2 or something in the UK. Don't think Sonny Edwards is quite on that level yet, although within boxing fans, and within boxing Twitter and social media, he's a massive hit. I agree. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Sonny Edwards. I'll just so it's different. I'll just go unanimous decision. I think I would have probably said split decision, but I'll go unanimous just because. Yeah, why not? He'll put on a clinic, and yeah, I'm fingers crossed that happens. Appreciate appreciate you jumping on now and reacting to this fight getting announced. As we mentioned, Sonny Edwards, Jesse Bam Rodriguez, date unknown, venue unknown, but fight we know is absolutely going ahead for the WBO and IBF World Flyweight titles, unification down at 112 pounds. Now, thanks very much, mate, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Cheers. Take